Hello Bookfighters, it is Thursday, I am Katie, and I have a bookshelf again! So for those of you just tuning in, we are discussing Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut all throughout the month of September. And when I was getting ready to make this video today, I was Googling discussion questions, because as I said last week, I find this book very difficult to talk about. It makes me think about a lot of things, and it's very interesting to read, but it's very hard to discuss. So I was looking for questions to maybe it would spark something in me. And everywhere that I looked kept asking this same discussion question, which I think is a terrible question to be asking about this book, and that is whether or not Billy Pilgrim is crazy or whether he was time traveling. And I just feel like this is the least relevant and worst question that you could ask about this book. Because on the one hand, if you decide that he's crazy, then you can sort of just write off everything that he says. But if you decide that he's really and actually time traveling, then you maybe give everything he says too much credit. Possibly absolute credence. I think that both of those perspectives would give you a really poor reading of this novel, and moreover, I think that it's completely irrelevant. The book never states clearly whether Billy is crazy or really time traveling. They just describe his experience and the way people react to him, and I just don't think that it's an important question when we're examining this book. And I find it troubling that this is the proposed discussion question. By literally everywhere that I looked for discussion questions, this was usually the first one. So my non-rhetorical question to you guys today is, do you think that this question matters when reading the book? And if yes, do you think he's crazy or do you think he's time traveling? And how does that affect how you read it? Because I would like to know. The reason that this question bothers me as much as it does is that I feel like it misses the entire point of the novel, because it's not a literal story, it's an existential story. So, like, yes, things actually happen in the novel, but that's not the point. It's an existentialist novel. So, for those of you who don't know what that means, existentialism is a branch of thought or philosophy that deals with the complexities of existing beyond the scope of science and religion and social labels. It's about the nature of existence, and the primary thought in here is that of the absurd, which I think is very prevalent in Slaughterhouse-Five. Absurdism is sort of the exact opposite of karma. Like, karma says if you do good things will happen to you, whereas the absurd just says everything happens. It's indiscriminate. The only meaning anything has is the meaning that we give it. And that's sort of the primary idea behind existentialism, and I think also a big thought in Slaughterhouse-Five. It's that things are not inherently good or inherently evil. People are not good or bad people. A thing is not a curse unless you interpret it as a curse. Something is not a blessing unless you feel that it is a blessing. The only meaning anything has is the meaning that you give it. And so we have Billy going throughout his experiences, his entire life, and dealing with the nature of his existence. What's called an existential crisis is what do you do when you realize that there is no inherent meaning to anything, and things just happen. And I think we also see this in Fight Club. I feel like I'm gonna compare every book for the rest of the year to Fight Club, and I apologize for that, but it just feels relevant. And I've used this exact quote that I'm about to use again in at least 3 other videos, but the end of Fight Club, the narrator says, you know, we are not the all-singing, all-dancing crop of the earth. We're not a special and unique snowflake. We just are. And that's at the heart of existentialism. It's at the heart of Slaughterhouse-Five. Just everything happens. And the only meaning that we have is the meaning that we give it. We see this all throughout the novel, but I think one of the best illustrations is when Billy gets picked up by Weary and the two other soldiers, and it's described that Weary has built up this idea about their experience, that they're the three musketeers and they're helping this poor sad sap, and it's a completely different experience of what's happening to that of the two other soldiers and to that of Billy Pilgrim, but it is a genuine experience for him. So in Weary's mind, he's having this epic wartime experience, but he's the only one experiencing it that way. It only means that because he has given it that meaning. I feel like I'm not articulating well what it is I'm trying to say here. Existential philosophy is really one of my core and primary beliefs in life, but it's one that I find very difficult to explain and to talk about coherently, much like Slaughterhouse-Five. So I'm sorry if this isn't coming across as well as I would like it to, but I'm trying. So the question that I think Billy has to deal with, and a lot of the characters in this book have to deal with, is how do you go on living? How do you continue to exist after you discover that everything is inherently meaningless, that nothing has an inherent value to it? One of my favorite quotes in the novel kind of sums up this idea nicely. It's a little later on when Billy is in the veteran hospital with the other guy whose name I can't remember, and he says, you know, I think you guys are going to have to come up with a lot of wonderful new lies, or people just aren't going to want to go on living. And I think that just framed it nicely. It acknowledges that everything we give meaning, the meaning itself is a lie, but that ultimately we need the lie. I think that the conclusion that Billy comes to, and also a very existentialist notion, is that the only thing that you can do is accept the things the way they are and to be your authentic self. To not project something, to not be something else because that holds a particular meaning, but to just be authentic, be who you are, regardless of who that might be or how other people may perceive you. Because reality is subjective. Your experiences are subjective, and people are going to think and experience things the way that they're going to, and you have no control over that. So the only way to give your life meaning is to be authentic and live in a way that is in accordance with your belief and with who you are. Alright, that's all I have on Slaughterhouse-Five today. Sorry that it was so much less focused and concise than it was in my head, but I did my best. Just a reminder that in October we will be discussing The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, and Julia, I will see you tomorrow, though more likely I will be seeing Sarah on Saturday.